Ever since the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, it's caused a lot of change for the world in general, but also for digital transformation and ERP projects and companies in general. And so what we want to talk about today is what are the impacts of COVID-19 and how are companies responding to that? My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients through their digital transformation journeys. I'm here with Shane Barger. He's the VP of Consulting for Guide Technologies. Shane, thanks for being here today.
Certainly a pleasure to join you, Eric.
All right, great. Well, before we get started, we want to talk a bit today about some of your clients in the manufacturing space in particular, and the experiences that you're seeing and the reactions you're seeing from some of those companies and different organizations going through their ERP journeys. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about Guide Technologies and yourself and what you do?
Eric, thank you for the introduction. I appreciate the opportunity to join you here today. I always look forward to the opportunity to get a chance to speak with you, so very much appreciated. As you mentioned, my name is Shane Barger. I am the VP of Consulting for Guide Technologies. I'm responsible for our various implementation consulting teams that go across the different ERP systems that we support. A little bit about Guide Technologies. We are an Infor affiliate. We are solely manufacturing focused, mainly on discrete manufacturing. As I mentioned, we are an Infor affiliate. So we focus only on Infor products. The products that we represent and support are Infor XA, which is a legacy iSeries based product. We also support Infor Cloud Suite Industrial, also known as Sightline. We also sell and support Infor Cloud Suite Automotive, which is also known as LN. And then we sell and we implement Burst, which is a business intelligence tool that goes across various Infor ERP systems. Guide's been in business a little over 20 years. We have customers that stretch from New York to LA across many different sectors and segments of manufacturing. So again, appreciate the opportunity to join you today.
In your experience so far over the last few weeks since the pandemic has hit the world, what are some of the impacts that you're seeing with COVID-19 on manufacturers in your customer base?
Yeah, I mean, Eric, obviously, all of our customers have been impacted to some degree. All of them has had to put in place some level of social distancing. And that can range anywhere from, no visitors to, no one even, being allowed within the office space and everyone having to work remote. So the projects that we had already started and we had in place, they've seemed to have, for the most part, continued on. The newer projects, the ones we were just getting started, we're just kicking off, those are the ones we've seen some impacts in terms of delays. In regards to the customer base, the impact really has been, pretty unique to each individual industry. Obviously, aerospace defense have had a lot more impacts due to Boeing, Lockheed Martin, et cetera. Automotive, with some of our Toyota and Honda suppliers, they've had to shut down along with, those companies' shutdowns. So, I mean, the impacts have kind of ranged the gamut. Some of our medical device customers are more busy than they've ever been. So they've seen huge increases. But the impact really has just been kind of dependent upon the industry, but all of them have been impacted in some capacity, at least from a social distancing perspective.
Yeah, it's a great point. And it seems like, there's some extremes here, extreme situations where some companies are dealing with huge surges in demand and their plant floors can't keep up with demand and orders. You've got others where they're seeing a drop in production and they're having to shut down in some cases. And then there's some that are sort of in the middle. But we're seeing something very similar to you with ongoing projects. So far, they seem to continue to be moving along. The interesting thing will be to see how these projects adjust over time with uncertainty around staffing and just other priorities, with now obviously health priorities taking front and center stage at the time we're recording this video. So that is, we're seeing very similar things as you guys, it's for sure.
And we've had some customers that have actually wanted to put more focus on the project. A CEO that I was talking to from one of our customers in Massachusetts, they'd experienced probably a 30% drop in the volume of their orders over the last couple of weeks. So their thought process was, hey, what better time do we have to focus our key people, on this ERP project than right now or over the next 3 to 4 weeks. So they are trying to even put more emphasis and dedication on the project since they now have the available time to do so.
Yeah, it's a great point. A lot of the more strategic, forward-thinking companies are doing that. They're saying, "Hey, this is as good as it's going to get as far as internal capacity and ability to consume a project like an ERP implementation." So it's a good way to look at it. So what about with Guide Technologies, the company you're a part of? What impacts has COVID-19 had on your company in particular?
Yeah. Well, obviously we can't travel anymore, so we're all for the most part, stuck at home, and again, given our industry and what we do, we're accustomed and we're used to working remote. We're having to adjust to the fact that we're having to do 100% of our activities completely remote as opposed to being on site and in front of the customer. It really depends, with Guide situation, depends upon the area of our business in regards to the impact. Our technical folks, our developers, they're working remote anyways. So those projects have continued and they've continued on with their activities. On the implementation application side, it's been a little bit more impactful because normally the activities they perform are going to be on site in front of the customer. So we've had to adjust to that situation and do as much as we can, from a remote perspective, using GoToMeeting or Zoom or what have you. But the impact has been much greater on those teams than our technical folks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be curious to see how longer term, how these types of engagements look in the future. Will it be more remote work even once social distancing is kind of eased up a little bit? That's to be seen. But I think the good news is it's forcing people like you and I and companies like Guide and Third Stage, it's forcing us to figure out how to navigate that and be able to provide the same value, but do it remotely. So I'd be curious to see if we ever go back to those heavy travel schedules that we used to have.
Yeah, and it's kind of, providing itself to be a proof of concept in a way. We haven't attempted to do some of these types of implementation sessions in a remote environment. So we're learning how to do those more effectively, not being in front of the client. One lesson that we've certainly learned is whenever we're doing a remote session, we want to make sure that the camera stays on with all the participants. We found that it's very hard to keep an audience attention. It's hard enough, when you're even in front of them to keep their attention for a full day. But when you're working remote and going through GoToMeeting, maybe every hour, hour and a half, if you're not paying attention, taking a break or watching them on the camera, they're just going to lose focus.
Yeah, it's a good point. And making sure you don't lose that momentum and the focus and all that stuff that for some it's easier to do in person in a meeting room. But you're right. As long as we can see everyone and stay focused, then you can be just as effective over video if you do it right. So
yeah, and Eric, as you mentioned, longer term, we'll see, how this changes how we approach client engagements and client interaction. Sessions that we would typically do on site, we may say, hey, they're just as effective remotely, and we can save the travel expense.
Yeah, in some ways, we're seeing already that it's opening up more markets geographically, just because there's not as much value necessarily as having someone that's based in your city, because it's the same as if you're across the world or across the street. It doesn't really matter at this point in time because it's going to be the same delivery mechanism either way. So I don't know if you guys are seeing that either, but it in some ways for consulting companies opens up opportunities geographically as well.
Yeah, and also, in ways that we may have not have necessarily thought of. An example that came across my desk today was a customer was having issues with just approving requisitions remotely. It's a paper-based requisitioning system today, a paper-based approval process, and they're really struggling with that concept with everyone working remotely. So of course, they're going to look at different ways that they can automate those different type of workflows to where if, their office is remote, they can still function as normal.
Right. What about, what are you recommending to customers in regard to navigating their digital transformation and ERP projects during this time? What is some of the general, other than, you're going to have to do the stuff remotely, we can do Zoom meetings or video meetings. What else? What else are you recommending?
Yeah, first and foremost, we're recommending that they stay the course. As I mentioned earlier, the conversation that I had with the CEO in Massachusetts, her philosophy was, or her concept was, since we have the availability, what better time to rededicate and refocus our resources on the ERP project. So we're recommending to customers that they should continue to move forward. Those key business issues that were the fundamental reasons that they embarked on the transformation change to begin with are not going away. They're still there, and they're still going to be there once this this crisis is over with. And if we can still take the time now to focus and move those initiatives forward, there's may not be a better time to do that.
Right. Yeah.
We're also recommending to customers to reevaluate their teams. The unfortunate reality of the situation today is, there is a lot of talent that's coming open and available in the market space. If you have people on your transformation projects that may not be as progressive or forward thinking as some of the others, today is a great opportunity to look for additional talent that can help move those initiatives forward. So things like that, rethink the implementation approach, as you mentioned earlier, Eric. Obviously, we're all having to learn how to leverage GoToMeeting, how to leverage Zoom, and using Microsoft Teams and all those different other platforms to collaborate and work together. And it's a learning process for everybody.
Yeah, it really is. What about those companies that are seeing the surges in demand, and for them, it's not so much, what can we do with idle capacity? How can we focus on these projects with the extra capacity we have? But they have the opposite problem. Now they're redlining their shop floors, and they're having trouble keeping up with demand. What's your recommendation to someone like that who either was in the middle of a transformation, now they're seeing the surge, or they thought they were going to start one and now they're struggling to get going just because of the priorities and the operational day-to-day stuff?
Yeah, strangely enough, the surge in demand kind of exacerbates the need for the transformation project that they were in the middle of. So it's kind of the same message. Okay, now you may have to rethink how you're staffing your project and how you're allocating your resources. But those initiatives should still continue, because the fundamental reasons to embark and do those initiatives have not changed.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's a matter of, is there ever really a good time to do a project? Either we're busy, or demand's not quite where we want it to be, or revenue's not quite where we want it to be. Yeah, and there's always a risk or a trade-off, right? But it's just a matter of you've got to bite the bullet and move forward where it makes sense. So how is Guide Technologies and your customers leveraging technology to keep these initiatives moving forward? What are some of the things you guys are doing?
Sure. Obviously, Zoom and GoToMeeting, as we mentioned, we're leveraging either SharePoint or Microsoft Teams for project collaboration. With Infor, they have online technology tools for different types of training in regards to the applications. It's called Infor Campus. We're heavily leveraging those types of tools. They also have a tool that's called an implementation accelerator that's basically best practice process flows that we have customers go through. We've also been doing things like having the customer write down questions, if they can't physically be on a GoToMeeting during the day, and then we'll have our consultants record the answers and send them the video recording so they can walk through them at their own pace. So we're leveraging the tools the best that we can to help service the customer.
Yep. Yeah, it sounds like some creative options for sure to keep things moving. Well, great. Well, sorry, were you going to say something else there?
I was going to say the process of using the recordings seemed to have worked well. We've had obviously issues to where we can't get people in the same conference room or schedules. We can't get them on a GoToMeeting. So having those, issues, problems, questions, whatever they may be, and recording those sessions and distributing them to the entire project team seems to have been, an effective tool to keep things progressing and moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, it feeds nicely into kind of where the world was headed anyway, as far as just more online delivery of content and education and whatnot. So in some ways, the good news is it's speeding that adoption curve for a lot of companies in terms of how they adapt.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time, Shane. Really appreciate it. You had some good ideas and good perspectives on what you're doing and what your teams are doing, what your clients are doing. And I think right now more than ever, companies are just kind of looking for benchmarks and what are other people doing. And it's not just me that's struggling with this sort of thing. So I think it's a really good conversation. Good to hear these examples.
Yeah, well, I certainly appreciate you having me on with you, Eric. And, I'm always open to do this anytime.
All right. Sounds good. We have a great day. Hope I appreciate you being here and hope all the viewers have a great day as well. And we'll chat with you soon.
All right. Stay safe, Eric.
All right. You too. Thanks, Shane.
All right. Thanks.